Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another AFL Fantasy Fanatics Sunday night live show after completion of the Community Series games. We got plenty of information from these for 8 teams. It's the last time we got to see them before round 1, but for 10 teams, we still have one more look at a lot of them, obviously with opening round coming up in just a few days' time, which is exciting that we'll actually get proper games of football, and that's all what we're craving for at the moment. I'm your host, Bales, and you can find it BAILSDT across the socials, and join me a couple of my fellow AFL Fantasy Fanatics. And Jordox, we'll start with you, mate. How are you? How was your weekend? Get the chance to watch some footy and obviously the Crows last night.
Yeah, I did, mate. It was a good weekend. It's good to have the footy, a more familiar version of the footy, that with an actual broadcast, commentators, camera angles. It felt a bit more real this week, and I actually think the AFL's done a good job for all the years they've played with the preseason. I actually don't mind this. Just one big live last hit out for each team, and yeah, I thought the standard was pretty good. Crows had a red hot crack with half the team out, so I was pretty happy with it.
Yeah, exactly. And no, not too bad from the Crows. Would have been good to have got a win, but can't win them all. Obviously, with a few guys out. And Tom, how are you, mate? How was your weekend? And obviously, didn't get to enjoy your Eagles in the last game. But besides that, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Cricket's done for the year now, so I get my weekends back. My partner's going to very much enjoy that. Nice to watch some actual footy. And I agree with Jordox. I think it was pretty good standard. I think it was pretty representative on the most part, with obviously some obvious key omissions for a few sides. But I think we've learned a lot of good information this week, and I hope we can try and give some advice of what is real and what is maybe not quite as it seems.
Yeah. Well, and just want to go back to you, Tom. You were pretty humble last week. There was a comment on their YouTube video last week, and had to verify that it was correct. But you hit a ton last week in the cricket, and I thought you would have flexed on the pod. And you said you had cricket that day. You didn't flex it, mate. What's going on? You got to flex if you score a ton.
No, that's not my style. Captain Tom decided to turn up for the one time in the year, and actually score some runs for once. So. Yeah, it's not quite my style, but it was nice to raise my bat and get my name on the honours board at my club.
Yeah, no, beautifully done, mate. Good stuff. And we do have a very special guest. First time in the preseason we've got him on. It's a pretty good week to get him on as well. 5 times top 400 finisher in the last 5 years, and got a number of hats. I've lost count how many hats that this man has got. It is DT Lemon jumping on with us. Lemon, mate, good to have you on the show, mate. How are you?
I'm good, thanks, guys. Thanks for having me on. And yeah, it's always good to chat fantasy. And it's good that we've now actually got some proper game, or sort of almost proper games. We've got some proper stats at least that we can look at and talk to. So yeah, it's really, really close. I think like everyone, I'm just can't wait to set my team and see how it goes.
Yeah, exactly right, mate. It's an exciting time of year, that is for sure. Before we get into all of the games and stuff, I just want to quickly go through one thing that we took from probably the main takeaway we took from the game. One thing we learned from this past weekend. So, Lemon, I reckon I'll start with you as the guest. What was the one thing you took out from the weekend from watching these games? It could be an individual player, could be maybe a team's game style, could be just a rule change that's affected something. What was the one thing that you learned from the weekend?
Yeah, I think I'll talk it to the centre bounce, or the removal to centre bounce, and those rules there with the change in the ruck rule. I think it's made some really exciting football. I think we're going to see teams put some dynamic players in there and try some sort of set plays where they get a bit more freedom of ball movement. So I've actually quite enjoyed some of the footy, even though it's, you can tell some players are only going at 80, 90%. I think there's been some really, really interesting games of footy and some really, nice centre work. And yeah, I think there's going to be some teething issues with the rules for sure. But I think on the whole, I can definitely see them making a better game of football for us.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's good to see the game flowing fast, which is good. Hopefully it continues, and the coaches don't have to. We know what the coach is going to do. They're going to manipulate everything to try and make it defensive struggle once again. But it's good to see some free-flowing footy at the start of the pre-season. Tom, what was the one thing you took out from the weekend?
I think the main thing I took out from this weekend is that we do have some rookie options that can score, and maybe some other rookie options who are very situational, role dependent at whether they're going to be there. And I'll go into that as we go on, so stay tuned.
Yeah, no, there were some good rookies and some bolters as well. Some good guys that popped up and had some good scores that will make us certainly think about putting them into our sides. Jordox, was one thing you took out from the weekend?
I think the one thing I learned from the weekend is that we never learn. And this happens every single year when we have our team just about locked away, and then the community series comes and goes and we react to everything. And I've seen so much overreacting on X and and that's part of the fun. You see someone go well, you put him in your team, and then someone doesn't go as well, you pull them out. These practice matches are just that, and as much as the data's there, and it's the first time we get those fantasy scores again. I think every year there's a player or two that just pops up and we all jump on, and then we look back and think, he wasn't in my plans before the practice matches. So I guess I just learned that, we never learn, but that's the fun of it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the thing I learned was one player, and probably the most impressive performance of the entire community series. That was Tim English, just absolute gun. And we'll talk about him a little bit later, but yeah, I think he's set for a pretty big year based on what we saw in that game. He was everywhere. And I think the thing I learned, obviously I wanted to just give Tim English his props, right? But the thing I learned is that these ruck changes are going to affect rucks. And they're going to not affect some rucks as much. But we saw Tristan Sherry, we'll talk about him later. Again, second week in a row, didn't look like he hasn't adapted quite yet to these new rule changes. I think he's going to struggle a little bit to start the year, so that may rule him out, but we'll chat about him a bit later. But guys like Tim English, even Brady Grundy was solid. Matt Scorn only played, 2 quarters and a bit, but he looked okay, even though the score wasn't good. So there'll be some rucks that will go well. Jackson, another one, TDK. So there's a few rucks that were good, but a few rucks did end up struggling there as well. Just go 2 more things before we do get stuck into the games as well. We do have a Patreon giveaway. If you guys missed that across the socials, if you jump onto the Patreon and join one of our tiers now, you guys get a team review, essentially like a 20-minute Zoom call where a few of us from the Fanatics crew will jump on and review your team ahead of round 1. Any question you guys have, you can ask us there. We'll look at your team, sort of what we do with it, any changes. So it's the only time you get a few of us on there and be able to do a full-on review right before round 1. It's a perfect time. Opening round, we're just finished, and we'll be able to look at your team. So if you do want to join that, patreon.com/AFL Fantasy Fanatics is where you can get that. So make sure you guys do head on over to enter the giveaway. And if you do join the Super Fanatic tier, you get double entry. So if you'd like to do that, all the info's on our Patreon. But boys, let's get stuck into these games. So we'll start off with Carlton and Geelong, the very first game of the community series. And just one thing with the players there, Nick Newman, 2-game suspension for a hit in the VFL side's practice game. So that rules him out as a pick. He'll miss opening round and round 1. So could be a good sort of pivot option in round 3, round 4. If one of your sort of mid-price guys fails or rookies made a bit of cash you want to upgrade, Nick Newman could be someone there, but not to start with. He won't be anyone that we're looking at there. But Jordox, I'll go to you because this has been a guy you've been keen on for a bit of preseason. Tanner Bruhn played halfback and was very good. Very, very good. He played in the midfield in the second half, but I think that was more to do with the changes to the team in the second half. But what did you make of Tanner Bruhn's game across halfback, particularly in that first half, because he was everywhere?
You couldn't miss him. It was a pretty impressive performance, and for a guy that's never really played that role before at the level, he certainly took to it like a duck to water. I know some were a bit concerned with his lack of scoring in the midfield in the second half. But as you sort of touched on, Bales, next week they'll have Bailey Smith back, and I think Bruhn will go back to halfback and just do what he did. Because who did Geelong actually have in that halfback role? Holmes is a midfielder now.
Humphreys, Guthrie, my boy Tom Stewart.
Stewart.
They can also play a bit more. Guthrie and Stewart can play more lockdown, right? So it's probably Humphreys one side, Bruhn the other.
Yeah,
probably looking at it.
Yeah, and it's all but guaranteed DPP in round 6. So yeah, I think he'll be very popular on the back of that performance. But it was great to see him back, and great to see him demanding the footy. So many handball receives, so many quick 1-2, give it back, give it back. He just wanted the pill in his hand. That's what we want to see as fantasy coaches. So it was a good performance.
Yeah, exactly. And we get one more look as well opening round, which is good. So we get another look to make sure Geelong weren't playing any silly buggers in the second half, and it was just switching the magnets. So we'll get to have a look at that as well. Just got 2 quick super chats here we'll get through. So Tim has got one here. Thank you, mate. Saying, hi, guys, upgraded my subscription on Patreon. And who are the must-haves to have? Well, fun enough, ahead of round 1 that week, I'll be doing must-have series, must-have premiums, must-have values, must-have rookies. So I'll be doing those videos, and hopefully we'll chat through a few players here today, and we'll sort of give our thoughts, and a few of them I'm sure will be must-haves, much like Jagger Smith. Tom, you said he was the most, like the number 1 lock. I said he was number 2 behind Sam Flanders. I will accept that I got that wrong, and Flanders is number 2, Jagger Smith's number 1. So you can lock that in there, but he was bloody awesome there as well. Lucas Cactus has got a super chat here as well, asking about McAndrew from the Crows, about Solar Ruck, and how many of us are looking at McAndrew R2. That's the exact question we're going to chat about when we get to that game. So, Lucas, we will answer your question, and I'll give you another shout as well when we get to that question there. But don't worry, we will be answering that question, because that's the question I'm going to pose to the boys. But, Tom, Sam Walsh, what did you make of his game? He started a bit quieter, but got going as the game went on. And I think Chera being out probably going to impact probably Jagger Smith more with the uptick for him. But Sam Walsh was certainly in there for a fair bit. What did you make of his game?
I liked it. It felt very Sam Walsh, in that it feels like it could be very close to being a premium top 8 midfielder style performance, but wasn't quite. At his price, I'm still very keen, and I'm glad we get a look next week. If we get a look, we're going to see a score. If it's a good score, 100, 105 plus, he's going to sit in my team, and that's absolutely fine. He did enough in a game that doesn't count. Let's see what he does in real footy next week. Yeah,
exactly. He'll be someone that I've keen on, but we get one more look, as you said, to have a look at him and see how he goes next week. Moving to the Sydney GWS game, just one thing, Errol Goulden, bit of an ankle tweak there. They ruled him out at pretty much about quarter time, but Sydney Crouch said that he's fine. That was precautionary. He'll be all good for only round this week. So he'll be one to be watching this week with that more of an inside midfield role. And Kieran Briggs has managed. I think that rules him out unless he absolutely smashes it this week in opening round against Brody. I don't know who's Giants playing this week. Can't think off the top of my head who they're playing, but whoever he's playing this week, if he smashes it, then maybe we can look at it. But bit risky when he's been managed a lot of the pre-season. But Lemon, Angus Sheldrick and Harry Ralston are 2 mid-price guys I think a few people have looked at. Sheldrick probably come out of the blue a little bit. So the last couple of weeks or so with a couple of decent scores. I swear we always see this in pre-season. I think, Tom, you said in a group chat, there's always a pre-season where Angus Sheldrick puts up a big score. But is there any interest from you on a Harry Ralston or a Angus Sheldrick potentially starting in your side?
Yeah, I think definitely both of these guys were super impressive. Young players, young midfielders with increasing opportunity at their clubs. I think the main thing about this game, and the big takeaway for me, was it was really wet. There was rain before the game, and then I think from about somewhere, I think it was around the second quarter or maybe the start of the third quarter, it just pissed down with rain. So that's going to suit these kind of in and under players, getting tackles, banging on the boot. Sometimes their disposal wasn't perfect. So, in a dry game, if they turn the ball over, are they still going to get that midfield usage would be my question. But definitely, they both put up a nice score and were really busy in that midfield. So I think that they're definitely 2 names you should consider.
Yeah, exactly. Do you think that especially with maybe Sheldrick, Goulden was obviously ruled out after pretty much early in the second quarter. Obviously, Heaney played a bit more forward. Do you think he'll get that opportunity in the midfield this year? I think Ralston, we expect him to because of the injury to Tom Green. He'll get some midfield opportunity. We get another look to watch, and we get another look at both of them, right? But particularly Sheldrick, do you think he gets that enough of a bump to be that pick, or do you think that there's just that question mark with those other guys probably in there ahead of him?
I mean, that's the difference between the two of them. Ralston's had a few names fall completely away. Tom Green ahead of him, Josh Kelly out of there. Finn Callahan might not start the year as well. Whereas you look at Sheldrick and Sydney midfield's basically fully fit when Goulden comes back in. So It's definitely a little bit riskier with Sheldrick there, but then again, you look at sort of the back half of last year, and he was a much bigger name in that midfield mix towards the end of the year. You give them another pre-season, and they're looking really good, Sydney. So maybe that's the midfield mix going forward.
Yeah, exactly. Tom, Jordox, just quickly, you guys keen on either Rouston or Sheldrick?
I've got Rouston in my side at the minute, more out of necessity of lack of rookies that I'm confident with. They both play next week, right? And I'm going to try my best for the rest of the pod, not just to say they play opening round, we'll get a look next week. But that for these kind of guys is super, super important because we're getting these guys for cash generation. These are not going to be top 8 players in that midfield. So we're looking for them to make cash and then using them as a stepping stone to get to that fallen premium who we can jump onto. So getting that round 0 score, if it is a 75, 80 plus, great. Yeah, let's get on with a good roll. Yeah, great. Let's get on. If it's less, then we're not going to. And luckily for those 10 teams that do play next week, we get that cheat round. We get to see what that first number is in that cash gen cycle. And if they put up a good one with a decent role, being kind of 3rd, 4th midfielder, with decent time on ground, then I'm all aboard either of them with the right role and the right score.
Yeah. Jordox?
Yeah, not at the minute, but I would like to find a way to get a player like that into the midfield. Yeah, I mean, Sheldrick, this has been coming. He was always going to do this at some point, just with when he got the opportunity. So hopefully he does get the continued opportunity because he's just a points per minute freak, and he always has been. So, yeah, as Tom said, we'll have another look next week. But I'm pretty interested.
Yeah, I've got an interest in both. Rouston probably at the moment, but as Tom said, he's not going to say the rest of the pod, but I'll say it. We look at both these guys next week, which will be good in lightning round. Moving to Brisbane and Gold Coast. So, firstly, Kitty Coleman, Jordox, off half back, which is good. Score, not as good, only 58 points. But it's funny, right? Premiums, we don't look at the scores much. We won't look for role, but these guys are a bit more value. We want a bit of a score with that role. And Chris Fagan did say before the game that he's playing half back and they want to settle him at half back as well. So again, we get one more look to this week with him. But is he someone that you'd be happy to start with if he went well, or is it still round 2 bye? You're happy to get opening round and round 1 a sample size and jump on after that early buy in round 2?
I think the fact that 7-10 days ago they were talking about playing him in the forward line, and now they're saying, "Oh, we'd like to settle him there." I think you'll see he sort of switches between the two, maybe depending on the opposition. And yeah, I'm not all that keen on that role insecurity, I guess. So yeah, he's probably one I'm happy to just sit back and have a look for a bit first.
Yeah, I think I agree. Just wait until round 2, unless he goes 100 plus this week. Opening round, maybe then you could look at it. But I think I prefer to go in round 3. Maybe as an upgrade target there. Lemon Petrarca was pretty good. Had obviously a lot of CBAs. Matt Rao isn't there. I don't know exactly what timeline he's looking at. I think he's missing opening round at least, and we're not sure exactly how much more he's going to miss after that. But West Coast, Richmond to start. Obviously, then the bye, then Melbourne. But we do have guys like Connor McDonald, maybe a Connor Buderick. I feel there's another few I'm missing from that round 3 bye in the forward line. Lombard is a rookie. Where do you sit with Petrarca? Is he someone that you're looking at picking? Is he someone that you could maybe move someone into the midfield and pick Petrarca still because of good matchups? Where are you sitting with him at the moment? Because I feel like he's a tough one to sort of fit in at the moment with our forward lines.
Yeah, he's a bit of a tough read at the moment, Petrarca. I think maybe my concern is around that Gold Coast game plan, and if they're going to possess the ball and go through him a lot, or if he's just going to be that kind of impact player forward and in the midfield. But I mean, he looks great. He looks like he's fit. He's getting really good midfield minutes, and those minutes will probably be bigger whilst Rao's injured. And he put up an 88 against a pretty tough Brisbane side. Brisbane have pretty much always been a tough matchup through this midfield, and they look really deep this year. So I think, I think if you're interested in Petrarca, you can sort of tick the box there. He's fit. He's got the role. Worst case scenario, he seems like a top 6 forward. Best case scenario, he's a top 6 forward with upside, maybe 5-10 points of upside. So I think in terms of a risky pick, he's about as safe as you can get. He's very low downside and a little bit of upside there. He's definitely a name. For me, it's more about where I spend the cash, whether he's in my side. And I think if you've got cash and you need to put it into the forward line, he's an obvious name to look at.
Yeah, exactly. No, I completely agree. There are a lot of funny. We said forward line at the start. We didn't have many guys to pick, but now we feel like we've got a lot of these mid-price guys, Tom, that we're trying to fit in.
Yeah, I just want to say I personally want a piece of this Gold Coast team to start the year, and Petrarca seems like the obvious player because having watched Richmond and West Coast over the last 2 days, we played today, and we'll get on to how we played today, but we played that about as intense as we could, and we got battered. The thing I said after the first quarter in our group, our Fantasy Fanatics group chat was, well, West Coast are still very green on the scale, so I want players who are playing West Coast and Richmond, and the fact that they are back-to-back to start, I think they could be a really nice bump at the start of the season, which I think is my big learning out of best 18 if we want those ceiling scores, and I can see those Gold Coast players being able to do that.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
I think they've got Geelong. They've got Geelong next week as well, who've just allowed all these points to Carlton. So that could be 3 weeks of big scores and a nice big cash prize there. So whether you can actually part with him at the buy, though, that's the question. I think if you start him, it's going to be a tough coach.
And that's why I like Petrarca as the forward, can just sit there and be there for 24 rounds. Going in Anderson in the midfield might be a little bit hit and jump off, whereas Petrarca, I can take 100, 105 average for the first 3 rounds. Then if he regresses to a 90, it's still absolutely fine.
Yeah. And then after the bye, he goes Melbourne, then Sydney, trickier, but then Essendon. So it's pretty nice run for the first 6 weeks there. And a best case is you've got a luxury trade up your sleeve and round 3, and you go, well, let's maybe go attack and let's go maybe for someone on the rise in points if you want to do that. But yeah, agreed. It's a nice run for Truck and someone in the mix for me, that's for sure. Leo Lombard, I think he's very good option as a bench forward. Looked good, did a lot of things I'm sure the coaches will love in that game. They kicked 3 goals, hit the scoreboard, so he'll get that double price rise, which is great. Has West Coast Richmond start the season. It's what really sort of what we're looking for with a rookie. Good early fixture, double price rise. Yeah, that's what we're after. Moving to Melbourne and Richmond. So the one sour note, well, 2 sour notes in this game is we only got to see 2 quarters and a bit because of the lightning multiple times. So thanks, weather gods, for deciding this is going to be the weekend that we're going to have the monsoon across Australia and we're going to have rain and thunder and lightning and all this, that, and the other. So not much of a game we got to see, but we still got to see a bit of it. But the other sound note was Sam Cumming. Unfortunately, suffered a shoulder injury. We're not sure the extent of it, but you sort of think that puts his round 1 debut potentially in a bit of jeopardy and maybe has maybe a week in VFL potentially, or comes back in, but maybe misses at least the first game or so. But we'll see exactly where he sits there. But Lemon, the guy I want to ask you about was someone I'm getting a hard time reading. Caleb Windsor. What player is he, right? So we saw him against North Melbourne the week before when Melbourne dominated and he struggled to get involved, didn't get anywhere near the football. But then this week against Richmond in 2.5 quarters looked great. He looked like he couldn't not get the football. So where do you sort of see him as a pick? Like mid 500Ks, value player, bit of opportunity available in that Melbourne midfield. Do you see him being a pure impact player that will have some good gains but some lower scores? Or do you see him being a bit more like on the weekend where actually be a bit more consistent and be an option for us to pick as that sort of value defender in that 500K range?
Yeah, he's a really tough read because he's never really been a name that's been a big accumulator. I think his junior stats weren't anything crazy, but he looks great in this role and he's got the role. And who's going to take it off him? Like you're looking at that Melbourne midfield and who's going to take minutes off him? They're so thin in there. The only player they could throw in there, like a Tom Sparrow for a few more minutes, or maybe move a Harvey Langford in, but they don't want to do that. So it's hard to see him not getting bulk CBAs, being around the footy. Can he tackle and mark would be my question. Is he going to put up enough tackles and marks to put up nice scores, or is he just going to be one of these kind of handball receive possession guys? Does he need to kick 2 or 3 goals to put up these big scores? So, it was really impressive in 2 and a bit quarters. He looked good.
Yeah, he's certainly very good. And I guess the security of the fact there's actually a few options around that price, or even a Nick Newman in round 3 potentially that you could start Windsor, and if it doesn't go well, you've got pivot options. That's another thing you could consider with a guy like him. Tom, another Melbourne sort of cheaper guy. We got 3 sort of on from this game we've got to chat about. Next one is Xavier Lindsay. So he's about a 550k sort of midfielder, but he played halfback and looked good. He got a bit of the ball and took the most kick-ins, which I think was an important thing to note. He had 4. There was only 6 kick-ins in the game, but he had 4. Salem and Jath had 1 each. So we all thought Salem was going to get that big bump in terms of those kick-ins. It wasn't that one on the weekend. Doesn't mean it will change. But Lindsay, that sort of second distributor halfback behind Salem, is he someone that you might be considering?
Honestly, no. He could be an absolute pot pick, but I don't see him hurting me with 80 plus average. And I can very easily see him going 55, 60, much like he did last season. I know there was some wing games and some sub games, which is why I've priced it at he is. I just think there's better options at that price. And at that price, to me, it either needs to be a slam dunk, not just to go with a rookie instead. So I'm happy to pass on that one. Obviously, round 1, round 2 is a pop score. You're looking to bring them in, or they become absolute number 1 distributor. Great, then I can change my mind. But not for me.
Yeah, there's pivot you can jump on easily. Maybe one of those ones you jump on instead of starting the year with him. Jordox, another Melbourne player, and we've been teased about this for a few pre-seasons, but Trent Rivers, we've had him in draft teams a lot, and he's been around the classic scene. We've wanted to pick him and we wanted his breakout, but it just hasn't been the case. Started on the bench like he normally does, but had the equal most CBAs in Melbourne along with Caleb Windsor, and then if he wasn't in the midfield, played off half-back. Is there any interest from you with the Trent Rivers now, as well with the fact Bergman injured and Newman suspended?
I'm always interested this time of year with Rivers, like you said, and I do think he will be predominantly midfield. It's just, what's he got to score to sort of make it a good call? I mean, I think an average 90, that'd be pretty good. I don't know. I'm probably looking for someone with a bit more, who's just a little bit cheaper, that's going to pop up to a 90 than someone that priced at 82, 83. Yeah. I'm not on him at the minute, but I do think he's set for a breakout season, so to speak.
Yeah, his price, as you said, those low A's probably needs to go somewhere in the mid sort of 90s or so to be that real good pick. So again, maybe one that you do look to potentially jump on if you do like him. Moving over to the Western Bulldogs and Hawthorn game, and
can we just chat a little bit about Sam Grill?
Oh, yep.
No, not on the run sheet.
He's just a lock, I think.
On field or off field?
I think he's on field. Based on
I agree, but I
lack of rookies.
Don't think it's like slam dunk. But I agree. I think he's probably on field.
Yeah. No, it's not. Yeah, not slam dunk, I don't think. But yeah, I think of the couple of rookies that we're going to have on field, I think a few of them, like Dan Annable, wasn't named. Obviously, he wasn't mentioned in the Brisbane game there, but he wasn't named. I don't think he'll be there next week and to start the year. Obviously, Sam Cumming injured. A few other rookies that have fallen off. So that's sort of why you got probably a bit more confidence with him. But Banks, short, still going to get plenty of the ball. So it's going to be tough to see them all score well. But maybe Sam Grill can cook back there. So,
yeah. Oh God.
Yeah.
He could sizzle.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, sizzle. Yeah, there you go. I just absolute crickets got there. No one was doing. Anyway, we'll move swiftly on from that one.
I was on mute. You didn't hear my chuckle. It was there.
yeah, there we go. Western Bulldogs and Hawthorn and Lemon. I think the big sort of the guy that impressed me the most across the weekend was Tim English, and the way he went in this game. Obviously scored over 130 points, dominated the ruck, getting ball around the ground, running with the ball. I think took a bounce or two as well. He's got an early bye, which makes it tricky. But we've got Lockie McAndrew as an R3, potentially R2, which is what we'll talk about later on. But is Tim English, even a Brody Grundy? We didn't talk about him in the Sydney game, but any of these round 3 bye rucks that are expensive, that don't look like they're going to be affected by the rules, are you considering them at all?
I'm definitely considering them. Round 3 is a really tricky one. I don't know about you guys, but I counted the other day and I had 8 round 3 players. So I'm very much trying to cut that down and looking at the ruckman. You're like, oh, do I want to take that in? Particularly if you have McAndrew at R2, what score are you going to get from the bench to cover? You're going to be playing with 21 that week. So, he looks great. I don't think Meek's a particularly tough matchup, and he was rucking against Chol a little bit as well. Kicked a few goals. The Bulldogs definitely got on top in this one. So, yeah, he looks great. It looks like these rules kind of help him a little bit in terms of the centre bounce stuff. Anyway, around the ground, he's still going to be manhandled a little bit. But, we know what we're going to get with English. He's been the last couple of years, he's been a pretty consistent top 2 or thereabout ruckman. I guess the question is, can you handle that round 3 bye? Can you take one of these big ruckmen? I guess that's the big advantage of having McAndrew at R3, is that then you get his score in round 3, and that's lovely. If you have him at R2, it becomes a bit trickier.
Yeah. But yeah, as you mentioned, that round 3 bye is that tricky one, right? When you're looking at the team, we've mentioned about how the forwards, there's a lot of these guys, Petrarca, McDonald, like these forwards that we're going to be looking at there, like even maybe a Buderick as well. If you go in there, then you got maybe if you've got a Goulden or something like that, like starts adding up, and then you got these rookies as well from these teams. So it's it's going to be something you have to definitely consider. But if you're happy to take his heavy price there and cover McAndrew, I think he's potentially an option to definitely be considering. Tom, Connor Buderick, Lockie Jarks as the 2 sort of defender guys back there for the Dogs. Obviously, Bailey Dale sounds like he should be back for 8 round, if not round 1. How do you see this sort of playing out? I think Jarks is probably going to be there. He's had an impressive preseason in front of probably a few of those guys. Basement rookie could be someone you put at D6 or on the bench, but Connor Buderick, with these round 3 forwards, where do you sort of see him settling? So you can just, your thoughts on both.
Starting with Lockie Jarks, however we're pronouncing that. Hopefully the comms help us in round 0 so we can get that right going forward. But he's a lock in our sides. I'm cooling a little bit about that being on field, or at least a start. Especially with Bailey Dale back there, I just worry about, like, we've seen these players off the halfback for the Western Bulldogs, apart from Bailey Dale, struggle to really score consistently. Even when, like, Lockie Bramble last year averaged mid-60s playing as a distributor off halfback. So I just worry about what that's going to look like scoring wise. But I think with his job security, I think he will make cash and have plenty of good games. I just think there's a flaw in there as well, especially in best 22 weeks. Connor Buderick, for me, is the victim of the round 3 bye. I think he's just a little, for the same reasons I spoke about the Western Bulldogs half-back line. I think he's probably the weakest for me of the round 3 buys. I think I prefer McDonald. I think I prefer Petrarca. So I don't really want more than 2 on field in that round 3 buy in the forward line. So for me, he just drops off, unless he goes 80 odd next week, and then he'll be in my side. So he's in round 0 side, so we get that first look. I'm not going to say no, but right now he's not currently there. I can't blame anyone who has him there.
Yep, agree with that there.
3 weeks off that price, is 3 weeks of price rises enough to jump off at his buy?
Well, he'll get 4 price rises. So let's say he goes up 100K.
3.
Isn't wait,
0,
no,
1,
double
2.
price rise. Oh, yes, I
0,
agree.
1.
My bad. Yep, crap maths. Yeah, don't mind me. You're right. Yep, 3 price rises.
I just don't like booking in trades.
Yeah, fair.
But that's me.
I agree. No, I think it really, if you're gonna do the short term play, the round 0 score is the big one. So he'll pretty much have that round 0 score. All of the price generation will be there by round 3. The round 1 and round 2 scores, they add a little bit, but not that much. So he's got to, for him to be a quick play, he's got to do, maybe 90 or 100 in round 0, and then he puts up some poor scores in round 1 and 2, and you trade him. You make 80, 90K, 100K. Is that good? It depends on what everyone else is doing. And, if someone else without a buy does exactly the same thing and just you can keep them in your team, I mean, you're going to be much better off picking that other player. So, it really depends on what we see in that round 0 game.
Yeah, exactly. And Jordox, just quickly on Conor McDonald, did you see what you needed to in this game to put him in? Obviously, we get another look, but you're pretty happy with him at the moment?
I think he just ticks all the boxes for what we're looking for. And, what I said at the start, like, it's not like he wasn't on our radar before this performance and the one the week before. He was one of the more popular guys that we talked about being someone to start with. And yeah, he looked excellent. So again, he'll be very popular.
Yeah, exactly. Saw that there was a clip of Stan Mitchell talking to Kane and Kingy or whatever, talking about Colin McDonald. Says that every time he gets asked about him on the street, he said by super coaches and fantasy coaches about is Colin McDonald playing midfield, and people call him a troll. But mate, you can't tell us he's playing predominantly forward, then saying he's going to play midfield. So what is it? So that's what I'm watching for. In the round, I'm watching for that this week. So I'm like, there's been a bit of silly buggers with his role, but he looked pretty good on Friday night. So hopefully he stays a bit more in that midfield role. Just before we move on to the Saturday and Sunday games, so we do have obviously 2 sponsors jumping on. One for the preseason, which is our friends at Keeper Fantasy. So obviously draft season heating up. I've had a number of drafts past couple weekend. I'm sure everyone has Keeper, Dynasty, single season drafts, and obviously got DT Shiva drafts in the weekend of opening round, which is obviously next weekend, which would be good fun for everyone to get involved in. So if you haven't signed up your league and want to get it sorted, do head to keeperfantasy.com and set your league up now. And obviously our other sponsor jumping on for the full season is our friends at Game Day Squad as well. So you guys heard me talk about Game Day Squad a number of times, but it's the Ultimate Dynasty platform for fantasy. Obviously it combines a lot of good elements that we know and love, from FIFA Ultimate Team, NBA 2K, collecting footy cards as a kid, and AFL Fantasy, all in the one, which is fantastic. And the season's about to start. And it also has opening round on the platform as well, along with finals. So if you guys want a bit of fantasy this week, coming up, head to gamedaysquad.com.au, use the code BAILSDT at sign up, and you can get yourself some free packs to kick off your Game Day Squad journey. Let's move to the Saturday games now. So we'll start off with St Kilda and Essendon. Lemon, Archie Roberts, real or not? Where are you sitting with him? He had a lot of midfield. Merritt played a bit more forward, and I think off halfback in the last quarter, but he's played midfield now both preseason games. We don't get another look at him, which he would have been someone we would have loved to have got another look at. Is it something that you believe in the role with the 2 games, or do you just think there's a few mouths to feed in there and he'd be someone you'd almost rather upgrade to or trade into than start with?
Yeah, another really tricky one. So yeah, thanks for asking me that question, Bales. But I mean, he's clearly sort of 4th, 5th in line for the CBAs there. So it's sort of a secondary role in the midfield, and then he's going to have to fill his time probably off the half back line, which is we know pretty juicy for fantasy scoring. But he didn't actually have any kick-ins. So maybe he had 1 or 2, but no, it didn't have any kick-ins. So it's a really tough one. These are the kinds of players I like to avoid when they pop big scores in the preseason. We see it all the time, these kind of outside halfbackers, midfielders who just got a lot of that cheap transition ball. As soon as the game slows down and there's a lot more stoppages, which there will be in the regular season, can he tackle when the game is tough? Is he in the midfield, or do they go to more Merritt? They go to more the big 3, the other 3 guys in there. So I actually haven't watched this game yet. I'm going to watch him closely, and yeah, really interested to see what he looked like, because they've got a lot of mouths to feed in that midfield, and they can't all be around the ball at all times.
Yeah, and well, from what I saw watching this game was he was actually rotating a bit at half forward, and I didn't see him actually too much behind the ball. He got back when he was in the midfield, and he wasn't playing deep forward by any means, but it was almost like he rotated a tiny bit with Merritt off half forward, and they had a few guys running through there. And that's, I guess, the difficult thing, Tom, is that with these Essendon mids, we're looking at Darcy Parish as a pick, Jai Caldwell's a name we're looking at. I think Merritt probably, for a starting pick, probably ruled himself out a bit just with uncertainty with they played him forward. Was that management? We don't know. Maybe you don't start him, but is any of these Essendon mids, is it Roberts in the back line, Parish in the midfield as an underpriced pick, Caldwell? Are you looking at any of these guys and starting with any of them?
Yeah, I mean, I think Parish did everything we needed him to do. I don't really think I don't think he's particularly effective forward. I think he's going to be full-time midfield once the real action starts. I think Caldwell's a midfielder. I can see Archie Roberts getting some CBAs, some kind of midfield defensive role, maybe, but I don't like the uncertainty. And being at about 900k, it's quite a lot of money for uncertainty. And I'm not going to talk anybody out of anyone who's really keen on him. I think there's a really good fantasy player in there. For me, there's just too many questions that I don't have answered at this stage to go there. It might be one of those where I see him round 1, round 2 and go, yeah, I want that in my side, and I trade to him of a player that doesn't work. Because we're all not going to pick perfect 30 players. There's going to be players we're going to want to change. So I think I'm happy not starting in him, have a look, see what the role is in actual games with actual amount of rotations, and go from there.
Yeah, I think I agree as well. Parish was number 1 CBA mid, which is good for Essendon, which is a positive. Jordox just quickly on Matthias Philippo and Lockie Blackiston, a couple of sort of Valley guys we looked at. I think Blackiston probably did all we need to do and probably even a little bit more, to be fair. Obviously, good matchup. Tougher matchup for him against TDK and Marshall. And then Philippo looks like he's going to be in the top 3 CBA mids. Are you pretty happy putting those two guys in?
Yeah, I think it was just all you needed to see. I mean, Blackiston, I didn't watch this game, but I heard, particularly that first quarter, he was looking unreal.
Tackling was impressive, yeah.
Yeah. And Philippo, everything we need. He's been training as a mid all preseason. Touchwood, he's gotten through without any niggles or injury setbacks, which is, plagued his career so far. And yeah, I don't think he scored that well. Oh, where did he get in?
76. A lot of handballs there as well. Not many marks or tackles. I think the conditions probably played a bit with that as well. Being at I think this game was at Mars Stadium as well. So that probably had a bit to play with it. But I think with Blackiston, you mentioned there as well. I think the other thing was impressive was he wasn't actually that far away from hit hits. He had 21 to TDK's 24 there as well. So that's a positive in itself that he was able to get sort of close and almost even up that battle.
Not bad for a guy who came in, not even 12 months ago as a key defender.
No, he came in. He was a rook. He is a rook. He played as a rook in the waffle. Yeah. He had to cover at key defenders because they had no fit key defenders last year.
Gotcha.
And he averaged in the mid-90s in the waffle as a rook.
Yeah.
So
I think he's just an easy pick as a defender, especially with two rookies falling off. I think you just chuck him in there at D4, D5, depending on your structure.
He was that impressive that they won't rush Brian back. They'll give Brian all the time he needs to get himself right. And then if Blackiston's performing, he might not even come straight back in. He was that good.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, very, very impressive from him. The other guys who were impressive was Jack Sinclair, huge game. Even Marcus Winhayer got into a huge game. And Nasai Wade and Melo, we're not really shocked of how good of a player he is. So they all did well, all did their job. Sinclair, you could start potentially, but I think Whitfield's someone that is a few people looking at as well. That buy, obviously he's expensive and got the early buy. Naz is just so expensive that I know a few people will start with him, but it's too expensive for me to be starting with an early buy. Next game we'll be moving to is the Freo and Adelaide game. And obviously we did have that super chat earlier in the show from Lucas Cactus. And this is the exact question that I had written down on the run sheet. Lockie McAndrew, R2 or R3? So want to hear what you boys have to say. So, Jordox, will go to you as the fellow Crows man. Is he your current R2 or is he R3, and where are you sitting with him at the moment?
Only tweaking, so he's still at R3. But yeah, I'm really thinking hard about it now because yeah, he looked pretty good. He did a fine job against Jackson and Cox, and yeah, that spot's going to be his for sure.
Yeah, I think Adam Kelly actually said on the radio pre-game that it's going to be McAndrew and Toby Murray as the backup ruck will be the R1, R2 heading into the season. So that sounds good. Tom, your thoughts, McAndrew, R2 or R3?
I currently have him at R3, but he will start at R2 in round 1. And the player who is currently R2 but will be around R3 in round 1, we will talk about in a game or two's time.
Yeah, it could
so
be a poor ruck there. So I think I know where you're going.
There could be another ruck based in South Australia.
Yeah, and I'm the exact same. I'm the exact same as you as well at the moment. McAndrew sitting at R2, but technically R3, but we'll chop and change with that ruck. Lemon, where do you sit with McAndrew? Because I know that you always you do talk about how you do like to have a pivot option, and being so cheap, there's not a pivot option if you put him R2, but where do you sit with him, R2 or R3?
Yeah, I've had a lot of chats on the Lemon League about this, and we keep getting questions in, and it just keeps evolving over time. I think for me, it's less about McAndrew, it's more about who you want to pick as that third ruckman. So do you want to pick a cheaper option? Do you want to pick a more expensive option? Where's the value? Do you like to lock away a premium? I think, McAndrew is going to be in our sides. You've got to pick 3 ruckmen though. So yeah, I'm not so much looking at what McAndrew is going to do. I'm more looking at who else is presenting in that ruck line, and if they're going to be on my bench or if they're going to be on my field. McAndrew can go either way. It's a really tricky line this year. We've had a few really easy picks the last couple of years in the ruck line. This year it's maybe McAndrew, and then who else? Who knows? So it's a tough one. It's still changing, but I might not be locking that one in until Thursday of round 1, I think.
Yeah, no, I think there'll be a lot of people in that boat as well. These rucks have done our heads in all pre-season. Moving to the next player, which was Josh Rachele, was impressive. Jordox, I'll ask you about him as well, being the Crows man. He was in the midfield. I think he was one of the most attended CBA mids of the game. And obviously a few injuries that the Crows have affected that. But do you see him starting in the midfield in round 1 and being a pick in our forward lines?
Yeah, I do. And there's been a lot of people sort of come out and say, look at all the Crows that were missing, which is true. But the word out of the club all pre-season has been that he's been training to play more midfield, in the same vein that Rankin did, just over 12 months ago. So, I think he'll be at the first centre ball up of that round 1 game, gets the Pies on a Saturday night, and he'll just look to thrive. He loves the big stage. As a pick, I like the pick. I think he's because what was his average at the end last year? Like 65.
Price at 62.
Something pretty. Yeah, 62. So I think he can get to 80 for sure. And I could see him getting to 80 even without the additional midfield minutes. I mean, he's going to be. I think some people have forgotten how good this guy is going to be, or that injury last year slowed him down. But no, big year coming up for him. And I think he's one of a handful of those guys. And how many can you have? Filippo, Connor McDonald, Rachele. Picking the right one's going to be tricky, but I think he's right up there with those other guys.
Yeah, I agree as well. I think I saw a lot last night, and he was able to fill the stat lines, get a few marks, get some tackles, which is good to see. If he can add that and then kick some goals, I think he'll be able to get to that 80 marker, mid-80s, and be a good pick. And there's a world where he averages 90 and is right sort of on the cusp of it as a top sort of 6 to 8 forward, and they're the picture you're really after there. Tom, I wanted to ask you quickly before we move on to the last 2 games as well. Got a lot of questions over the last 24 hours about Murphy Reid as an option. He obviously had 30 touches yesterday. I sort of think that was probably a bit to just do with the fact he just got into really good spots, and he's a very good player, and he's going to see some midfield time, but with Darcy probably in the team, we imagine as the ruck, Jackson is more of a midfielder, probably won't get as many of the CBAs, probably what he did, and could have some up and down scoring. Is he more just a draft pick, or is there any interest from you in Classic?
Oh, there's interest. There's lots of interest from me. He doesn't have an early buy. A lot of the other options that we're looking at do have early buys. It's only about 60k to go from Buderick to Murphy Reed. If you wanted to do that with your structure, Freo fans that are absolutely rave about him. Like, he is to them the second coming of whoever. And I think there will be some CBAs, but I think it'll be very pinch hit. Like, we need a bit of speed in there. Go in for one Murphy.
Yeah.
I
think the thing that worries him
want to pick him. I really want to pick him because I think it's a really exciting pick. I think he's a very good player. I think you'll enjoy watching him. I'm just not sure whether he's going to be playing that high half forward, which I think would be a good pick if he is, or whether he's going to spend much time playing as a deep, like small, in which he's not going to be a good pick because he won't score as well in that role.
Yeah.
So
the thing that worries me with him as a pick is that he hasn't been on my watch list for really much of preseason at all. And I just worry that picking him just because he had a good preseason game and putting him in and he has a good score. But Freo do have a good start to the season. So got some good early fixtures. I feel like I'd rather trade into him though. It's not
and he can go on the Archie Roberts list. He can go on the Archie Roberts list of let's have a look. Let's have a look for a round or two. If I've currently got in my side Flanders, McDonald, Philippou, Rochelle. I've got all four of them in my side at the minute.
And you want Petrarca?
One of them, I've got Petrarca as well. And Sheasel. There's a forward line, guys. Yeah. And one of those will probably fail. And if Murphy gets off to an absolute heater, that's a pretty easy trade. Maybe for banking a little bit of cash while doing it, which might allow him to do a rookie fixer. So I think he's a guy, especially cheaper than the rest of the guys. You can wait, have a look, see what that role looks like with a 23-man squad proper game in round one against Geelong. I don't see him getting away from us playing Geelong in Geelong. And then we'll see how it lands round two.
He didn't mind Geelong and Geelong last year in round one from memory.
Yeah.
Well, he did apart from 5 minutes where he kicked 4 goals. I think he's got about 5 points in the rest of the game and then kicked 4 goals in 5 minutes.
Oh, it's crazy. Yeah. He looked unreal. But yeah, I think it's a bit of a preseason pop-up game that, I mean, I think he's going to be a superstar and he was unreal in this game. But yeah, I don't know if I'd have him for Classic. Not yet.
Yeah, maybe, as you said, maybe it's a trade. You trade into him there. We'll keep moving on to the next game as well, which is North and Collingwood. So the final 2 games in today. And we might have a round 1 bolter. Tom Blamiris, I hope I've got that correct, but 230k rookie. I think they said it's like, I can't remember the exact medal that he won, but it's been like the last 19 winners that medal have all made their ones in the AFL list, and he's now done it. And look good.
Best young player in the VFL, I think.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, I know that it was I can't remember the exact. I'm sure some of the comments will be able to let us know what the medal was called, but only just got added to the list. Came in straight up and played. I think he started on field as well from what I saw, and pretty good 92 points as a basement mid when we've had guys like Annabelle, even Ezekiel, who we didn't mention, was a little bit quieter, even though he had some good disposals, may not be there. I think this guy could be an M10. So just a rookie to keep an eye on and someone to maybe potentially look at as an option. But Colby wasn't there. So that's one guy to come in. But Hardiman did have an ankle injury, not sure on his timeline. So there could be a spot there and look pretty good. So someone to be watching there. But Tom, one guy that's, again, Trent Rivers we mentioned. Another guy that's teased us for years that I know you've been a fan of. And I deliberately asked you this one because you've been in our group chat saying, I don't know what to do about LDU. Another good score again. He looked good at the start last week, but faded. Obviously, North were terrible last week, but looked much better, albeit against a Collingwood team missing a number of their players. But 124, priced just below 90. Do you think this could be the year he goes triple figures? And is he someone that you're looking at starting?
This looked like the LDU of the second half of 2023, where he averaged, I think, 108 after his bye, and what led me to start him in 2024 when I had my half decent year. And I always have a soft spot for LDU. I just love the way he plays the game. So silky, so smooth. Yeah, I just don't think he can. I just don't think he can. He can have. He did really well, scored awesomely today. But we've seen games where he's played really nicely and scored 90. I just worry about all four stat lines elevating himself. But it wouldn't surprise me if this is his year, because he looked absolutely amazing today in that North win. Yeah,
he was very, very good. Will be some that tempt some, but others will probably just say, "Nah, you've burnt me a couple of times." So, will be an interesting one to see if anyone does look at him as an option. Lemon, Dan Houston, he looked better in the game today, but still not a huge score. I think it was a 74. I think he even played full-time midfield in the third quarter as well. I think he had about 30-odd% CBAs for the game. I'm sure that was Collingwood just trying something out. But I think the big thing was Josh Dacos didn't play midfield even with all these guys out. So do you just think that surgery in the off-season and the fact that Josh Dacos looks like he's going to stay at half-back, is that just a bit of you'd rather wait and watch with him?
Yeah, I think so. It's interrupted pre-seasons. I never really like to jump on any of these players, because even if it's the right pick, it might take a few extra weeks to get there. And you've got to have the patience to stay with them until they get fit and they pump out those big scores. So if he doesn't hit the ground running, you're probably going to trade out of him, and it doesn't matter what happens after that point. So yeah, at some point he has to get back to what he was doing at Port. That's why they targeted him. Maybe it's the back half of this year. Maybe it's one to watch throughout the season, maybe early season. But if Josh Dacos is in defence, or any of these kind of big ball-soaking players like him, there's only so much ball to go around back there. And Houston's a pretty good defender. He's got good size on him. He can actually defend, whereas Josh Dacos is purely back there to get the ball. So, I think unfortunately we might just have to bide our time a bit more with Houston.
Yep, I think I agree with that as well. And final game, which is West Coast and Port Adelaide, which has just finished. Will Brodie didn't play. I think that probably says a bit about where he sits ahead of round one. I thought I was a bit more confident he was going to be there with Horn fronts being managed more on the forward line to start the year, and Wines 2 game suspension. Even Bergman didn't play today because he had an ankle issue. So I think that rules Will Brodie out as a pick. I don't know if he's going to be there. And Miles Bergman, Lemon, just your quick thoughts on Bergman. He obviously missed the game, but he's been training mids. Could you still pick him even though he missed this game today? And then I just want to get your thoughts as well on ruck that Tom was asking about, being Dante Vicentini as an option, scored okay today as well. So Bergman and Vicentini.
Bergman's a really tough pick now, because he did play the sort of unofficial practice match, but from my eye, he was mixed between midfield, forward, defence. He kind of got thrown around a little bit. So going in sight unseen when we've got all these other round zero players, you're a bit more certain of the role. It's going to be tricky. As a Port fan, I'd love to pick him, but I don't know if I'm going to have the balls to do that. Vicentini, just like Adelaide, it looks like he's got that role sewn up. Everything we've seen is he starting as the number one ruck. My question, same with McAndrew, is how long does the team go with that for? I think Riley O'Brien and Jordan Sweet are proven ruckman at the AFL level. They're not the best ruckman in the comp, but they're not the worst. It just takes 1 or 2 sample games where they put up big, really big games, kick a few goals, dominate. At some point, I can see those guys playing throughout the year. So if you get 5 weeks out of them solo ruck, it's a great pick. If you get 2 weeks out of them solo ruck, it's going to cause some absolute massive headaches. Maybe if you just pick both of them like Tom's planning on doing, you double your chances of a success, I guess. So maybe that's the strategy. Yeah,
and Tom, I was going to ask you about that as well. It's because that's what I'm looking at, because I like, as you said, McAndrew and Vicentini, because you can rotate with the better matchup, which round one, Vicentine's got Sherry, and I think McAndrew's got Cameron. So it's a bit of an easy matchup. Play McAndrew, and you can rotate. And I like that you can go up or down with Vicentini. You can sort of, if you can make cash by going down, you can go up a little bit if a ruck goes well. So is that why you're keen on starting the Vicentini-McAndrew combo?
Yeah, as Lemon said, it kind of mitigates the risk. I think if you go with one of them, then you're a couple of losses for the team away from the swap or even a share. I think both of them are going to score pretty well. I see them both in that kind of 75 to 80 kind of range. Port Adelaide actually have a really, really, really nice run to start the year for rucks. So I can see maybe him getting off to a bit of a hotter start than what he'll end up averaging for the rest of the year. And then if and when both do get dropped, I'll be able to combine their cash to get to a premium.
Yeah.
And I think as we've seen through the practice games, we're going to see some rucks fall in price. The rucks that can't get around the ground or teams aren't willing to use them in transition. So I think that's what really, really impressed me about someone like Tim English is the Western Bulldogs wanted to use him in transition, wanted to handball to him so he could give a handball back, wanted to
even Grundy
use
as well.
that Grundy as well. And this is what we're going to need Ruckman to do, rather than someone like a Tristan Cherry, who was fine, but if we're having less stoppages, he looked slow around the ground. Never ever was showing in space for a cheap uncontested mark. Was always down the line. So we're going to be some rucks dropping in price. As a result, reaching up to one who maybe goes into a slightly better run might be a bit easier than it looks before the season starts.
Yeah, agreed. Tom McCarthy obviously struggled a bit in this game. 77 is like a fine score, but this is my concern with McCarthy. I think he's a very, very good player, and what he's done in such a short period of time for West Coast is very, very good, right? But I just worry he's not going to have the access to that sort of mid-90s odd average that you'd need him to go at to be the pick you want. So that's why I've been a bit colder on McCarthy a lot of preseason, just more so. Like only two players for West Coast scored over three players scored over 75. So not many there, and that's just my worry a bit with McCarthy. But he's still a very, very good player. Jordox, final players to wrap up here is, I know Zach Butters, Connor Rosie, 152, 149 respectively. Yes, it's against West Coast. Yes, it's a preseason game, but they did rack up a few tackles as well and racked up all the stat lines. Rosie did play a bit more midfield today, and it was actually had the most CBAs of any midfielder on the ground, along with Dev Robertson. Does it really, with the fact they've got such an easy run, and we've seen what they can do even in this game with an easy matchup? They play West Coast in only a few weeks. Is it just you're happy to lock both these guys in?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there'd be any reason not to after tonight. And if anything, their popularity is just going to go through the roof because they had it on a string tonight, and they're going to get more attention, especially Butters, I think. But no, they're good picks, and tonight was just enjoyable if you've got him in your side.
Yeah, and the fact Rosie scored Butters scored 152 from 67% game time. This is what Butters can do. This is what Butters can do, and because such a large portion is going with him, easy fixtures, he's underpriced. I think you're probably going to go there because you could get hurt quite badly with some big scores to start the year. So I'm pretty keen on both. And actually, saying a lot because we mean Jordox are Crows fans that were saying lock them both in. So there you go, chuck both of them into your side. And there's plenty of other players we could be chatting about. We could be here for another hour or so chatting about players. We'll just do about a couple of minutes of just quick rapid fire. Anyone that we missed that the listeners have asked about here. So I'll quickly go through these. Lee Everett asking about Todd Marshall. Tom, is it just you had more of a lockdown role, just not interested?
Not really interested. The Eagles are the greenest matchup in the world.
Yeah. Smugglers Drivers, Jordox, Brun or Rouston at M6? Who are you going out of the two if you had to pick one?
Oh, I'm pretty big on Bruin because the DPP will be almost certainly coming his way, and I think he scores more.
Yeah, agreed. Lemon, Andrew's asking here thoughts on Charlie Curnow if he goes big in opening round.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's definitely a play. We know that Sydney's going to be a better team. They're going to feed him the ball much better. That forward line works really well, and he's going to have guys like Goulden and Heaney kicking to him. So I would definitely be interested in him if he puts up a nice opening round score. You could ride him for a few weeks.
Yeah. I know Jake, shout out to Jake from Chat, has been keen on him for a lot of preseason, so we'll see how he goes in opening round. Will's got this one. Tom, thoughts on Joel Frazier? Seemed to be the fifth guy in line, I think, on the weekend.
I didn't have any CBAs or barely any CBAs, and in any other role, I've got no interest.
Yeah, very, very good player, but yeah, I think it's not going to be enough for fantasy. Next one we'll go through here. Up the Crom, Jordox is asking about thoughts on Lawson Humphreys.
Yeah, he looked good. He looked very good. What would he be priced at, Bales? You got that there?
Quite a lot.
What did he do last year?
He's not cheap.
70s.
Don't have it on.
He averaged 70 something, I think.
71.
Yeah, look, yeah, but with Bruin coming into this role, I probably wouldn't. And even without, he'll get there eventually. Humphrey, I reckon, a few years he'll be a absolute jet. Averaging in the 90s, but just probably not this year.
Yeah, I think I agree. I'd stick to draft with him. Tom, Will Powell, your thoughts on him?
I think this is a round zero watch. This could be a better version of the Sam Taylor pick from last year. Midfield role.
I'll get around those picks.
I thought I'd get him in at some point. He is someone who's entered my round zero pop score watch list. I suggest you all do that. Put a list of players who play next week, where if they pop, you're happy to start them. And if anyone pops who's not on that list, do not pick them. Otherwise, you'll end up whinging about it for 12 months like Bales.
12 months is kind. This will be another bloody 60-odd months, few years worth of complaining about with that one. But that
makes
was my
good content, though, I guess.
Yeah, and that's
He does
not putting him in utility. But who's going back in time with that? Tony's got this question, Lemon, probably a structure one here, but he's asking about Petrarch or McDonald. Where would you be sitting with that? Does it really come down to, are they both looking opening round and where you're wanting to spend the money, or are you thinking McDonald's the more value? He's looking good. You'd be happy to pick him instead.
I'd be happy to have either of them in my team. If it's at the same position or whatever, I'm not too worried about picking, an extra premium forward or one extra mid-pricer. I think, they both look good. Probably more, it's just around where you spend that coin. And as I said, I think Petrarch is a really safe option to put that coin in. Is he going to win you the car? Probably not, but he probably won't cost you the car either. So could be a nice way just to get points on field and take your risk elsewhere.
We'll do three more to wrap up. Rhett Weeks, Jordox asked about Zach Johnson. Obviously had a decent enough score there at halfback for the Bombers.
Yeah, I was pretty interested in him sort of earlier in the preseason, but I couldn't sort of get any guarantees from anyone that he'd hold that role, but looked pretty good on the weekend. He did some good stuff last year. Probably just a bit too risky for me at this stage.
Yeah. Tom, thoughts on, where was that from? Thoughts on Toby Green, says ST.
I don't think there's enough upside there. Just about got that in.
He did well to get that on mute, just sneeze there.
I just don't quite think there's enough upside, but he might be the big beneficiary of all those midfield injuries. He just might be no forward time whatsoever. I know he played all midfield this week in the slop in Sydney. But once again, we get cheat week next week. We get to see, is he full-time mid? Does he have that score in his price cycle? If both, yes. I'm not going to say he won't be on my side.
Yeah, no, something to be watching for sure. And then final one, Lemon, I'll go to you for this one. Sean's just asking thoughts on the F6 spot. Are you happy enough with the rookies that are there that you can play one, or do you think that this is one we could spend up at F6 and get one of these cheaper forward guys like a Buderick, Murphy Reed, Sam Lawler, one of those sort of type of guys?
Structurally, I think I do like the option of either starting a rookie there or pivoting to having a rookie there. I think, early on, that's a good spot where you can trade down and bring an extra rookie in and have that flexibility. So yeah, if you're going to start a more expensive F6, it's probably going to be one of these more short-term plays that you're happy to move on quickly, or maybe you've got a few speculative options there that you think you're going to offload one of them early, bring a rookie on field if they present. So I like to have that flexibility in there. Pretty much every line, give yourself the option to bring at least one rookie on field.
Yeah, agreed. I do like that, having that flexibility there as well. But I could see the both argument for both, but I'm sure there'll be something we do chat about a bit next week as well, because that will wrap us up there. I know that Mega Bear did ask about your boy Lairdy Bales, and it was pretty good. Good to see him. Good to see him and Dawson as the top two scorers. I was going to take a screenshot and post it, but it said Dawson out, and I got really, really worried. But I just saw it looked like he cramped up a bit and came off at the end. So he's all good. He had the interview after the game and there was nothing there. But so, no, very, very good to see them both top scoring there, and wish I could pick both, but I don't think I'll be picking either at this stage. But that'll do us. But as I said at the start of the show, if you haven't entered our giveaway yet, make sure you do jump over to the Patreon and join up over there. And you obviously go into the giveaway, right? But you can enter a big cash league as well. We've got a few people signing up over the last few days as well. So the more people sign up, the bigger the cash prize is. First, second, third get prizes. And then you also go in the giveaway to get your team reviewed with a 20-minute Zoom call with the Fanatics crew ahead of round one. So make sure you guys do get over there, patreon.com/AFL Fantasy Fanatics. But that'll wrap us up. Lemon, mate, very much appreciate you jumping on with us. Always good to chat fantasy with you, mate, and get some knowledge off of you. Where can the people find you across the socials? And if they haven't already, must go and see the Patreon, the Lemon League. What have you got going over there for the rest of preseason?
Yeah, thanks for having me, gents. It's always great to chat, and I'm looking forward to chatting throughout the year. If people want to go follow me at lemon_DT on X or at lemon_league. Got a new Patreon that started up last year, a couple of podcasts every week and some other content. If you're looking to learn the game and learn the strategy behind it, how I've gone top 400 for the last 5 years, I think you'll get a lot out of it. So definitely recommend checking it out. Thanks for having me on, guys. Really enjoyed this.
Beautiful. Thank you, mate. All links are in the description of the podcast and the video, as always. Make sure you do go and check it out. Tom, mate, thanks for jumping on once again. Where can the people find you?
You can find me at Tom_Hales_. Was 4 days away from some actual scoring to people's prices footy. We're so close.
Yeah, exactly. Looking forward to it, mate. And Jordox, mate, thanks for jumping on. Where can the people find you, and what have you got in store next for the next episode of Finders Keepers?
Yeah, thanks, mate. I'm on X at Jordox 2020, and Finders Keepers podcast is at FindKeep AFL. Very excited this week. I've got a very special guest. Sports by Fry will be joining me to look at the games in the community series, but also we've actually just started a new keeper startup together. So we're going to be looking at the draft that we just had and just looking at the strategy and tactics that go into a new startup keeper. So looking forward to having him on. It's going to be a good episode, and that'll come out probably late tomorrow night or Tuesday morning. But I do want to plug one more thing. The Coaches Panel live event is in 7 days' time. It's at the Wheat Wine and Whiskey Bar in Collingwood. And if you haven't already, get yourself a ticket and come on down. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's the first live podcast the Coaches Panel has ever done. I'll be there, and I'll be talking a little bit about keeper stuff. And, yeah, the whole crew will be there, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So the doors open at 5, and then the live pod starts at 5:30. Finishes at 7, and then we're all kicking back and watching Collingwood St Kilda. So get your tickets and come and check it out. It's going to be a lot of fun next Sunday.
Yeah, exactly. Make sure you do check that out as well. You can find me at BAILSDT across socials and us at AFL Fantasy Fans on X. And you can also find Guesty, obviously, is back in amongst the fantasy community after his a couple of off seasons in a row. But 20th coach, you can be the 20th coach of the Content Creators Cup and take on the likes of us on the screen now, and you can take on Holmesy and Mitch and DC and a heap of other good coaches from all the different podcasts out there. So if you want to be the 20th coach, head to infinitewealth.com.au/AFL Fantasy and check out the link there and sign up. And you guys can go in the draw to be the 20th coach, and you'll get a mention every week on the pod because that's what we talk about every week. So you'll get a mention there as well. So if you are interested in that, links in the description of the podcast video, and make sure you do go and join. And good luck to anyone and see who's going to be the 20th coach. If you're on YouTube, like and subscribe, do all that good stuff. That'd be very, very much appreciated. And if you are listening on Spotify or Apple, 5-star rating and review would be very much appreciated as well. We'll be live next Monday night for our opening round review live show. So it won't be on the Sunday with the late game, but it'll be on the Monday. So looking forward to chatting through all the opening round games then. Have a good week, guys. Look forward to football. And we got team reveals coming this week on the channel. So make sure you do tune into that. So thanks, everyone, and have a good week. See ya.